So if someone wants to start a business, what is the first step and what are the procedure to register their businesses? What are the different types of businesses one can set up in Netherlands? So how much does it cost to register these different types of businesses? Are there any special support or financial benefits are being offered by the government as such for the new business entrepreneurs or somebody who is planning to expand? Are there any special incentives will be given by the government? So what happens if you run a business without registering in KVK or without registering in notary? What will happen? In the last episode, we discussed in detail about the tax system in Netherlands. But I could see a lot of people who are migrating to Netherlands these days, they want to venture into new businesses. And we are really stuck like which type of businesses one should choose. Are we allowed to do businesses in first place? What are the compliance requirements one should be aware of? And what are the consequences of running a business without having the right knowledge? To have a good clarity in this regard, we are going to speak to Ms. Diana, an experienced tax consultant with more than 30 years of experience in this area. Let's get into today's video. What are the different types of businesses one can set up in Netherlands?
Yeah, well, there are a few. The first one is an eenmanszaak or a proprietorship, one-man business. Quite the same as ZZP'er or een zelfstandige, independent. Independent, I have to say. You have a BV and you have an NV. BV is private limited, NV public limited. Complex thing is the difference between an independent and an eenmanszaak, and a one-man business. An eenmanszaak, one-man business is that you're really an entrepreneur and you can have employees. Een ZZP'er, independent is more like the same. You have a business, but you don't have employees.
Underneath this. Oh, yeah. That's more of like a freelance consultant kind of thing will be coming under.
Yeah, but the freelance is different because the difference between freelance and independent is more the risk that you have. As a freelance, you don't have really risk. You have an assignment, you do that and you get paid, or you already get paid in advance. It's quite clear what your assignment is, and that's it. And as an independent or as an entrepreneur, most of the time you have more clients at once. The period of your assignment can differ. It is not always certain at the beginning. There is more risk in if the client is not satisfied with your work, he doesn't pay or pay less. And when a freelancer, you have already in advance, you know what you can get. That's more. It's also depending on the type of work, actually, the kind of the activities. But there's a difference between freelance and
entrepreneur. Yeah. So I also see like a lot of new people who are moving to Netherlands either for a job or as a dependent. They try to start a business on their own. It can be a freelance consulting job, or they even try to venture into different areas. But being on a HSM visa or a dependent for HSM, what type of business one can choose? Like if you have listed few types of businesses, right? So which one to choose and which would be more suitable for a person under HSM visa?
Well, yeah, it depends a little bit on what is stating on your visa. But in most cases, it's mentioning that you can work as an
highly skilled migrant,
as a labor, and at the same time as an independent. If that's the case, then you can have beside your job, very important, an eenmanszaak or a freelance job. That's possible. And BV will be more difficult. Then you have to discuss this with the IND before they do make any arrangements at all.
So then to understand it in a nutshell, probably somebody who's on an HSM, they have to have their job in place. In parallel, they have to start any type of businesses, like probably with the eenmanszaak or with the freelance thing.
Exactly, yeah. You cannot quit your job and do only a business, the one-man business. Then you have a problem.
And this information is already written anywhere in the visa clearly?
This information is mentioned on the website of the IND. However, it's not really clear. So actually, in any case, before you start something different, just consult the IND before you do anything.
Nice.
That is my advice for everything, actually.
So if someone wants to start a business, what is the first step and what are the procedure to register their businesses? Or probably the procedure to register the different types of businesses you mentioned.
If you want to start an eenmanszaak, one-man business, then it's quite easy. The first step is to think of a name of the
Okay.
business. And the second one is to make an appointment with the Chamber of Commerce, the KVK, and then have your business registered there. The KVK will go through a lot of questions with you, and then you pay them a fee, and then your business is registered. That's all.
Oh, then is it something like online, or we visit the KVK office and then we do that?
You can start online.
Okay.
And there you have to fill in a form, a lot of questions. You make an appointment and you have to show up in person at the KVK because you have to show your ID. For the BV, it's a little bit different. You have to go to a notary.
Okay.
The notary has to make incorporation deeds, and the notary also will take care of the registration at the KVK. But actually, it's the same. You come up with if you think of a name, you decide about the activities of the business, and the notary will make the deeds. You pay them, and then you are in business.
Okay.
There's another kind of business that we didn't discuss before. It's a VOF. That's some kind of corporation between eenmanszaken, sole businesses. For that, you don't need to go to the notary. You only have to register that as well at the KVK, and that's it. However, for a VOF, I would advise you to have a contract between the partners. And in the contract, you can make agreements about the division of work, the division of capital, and in the end, the division of the profit.
Oh, the VOF means the partnership company is what you mean by VOF, right?
Yeah,
okay.
That's a partnership company indeed.
Yeah, that's clear. So what kind of compliance requirements are there for these different types of businesses? For instance, if it's be a one-man business or if it is a BV, what are the different things that one should be complied about?
With a one-man business, it's quite simple. There are not a lot of requirements. You even not need to live in the Netherlands, actually. You can live abroad and still have a registration here. There's no need for a business plan. You don't need a separate business bank account. You can use your own bank account. It's not advisable, but it's allowed. You do need to have a kind of bookkeeping.
Okay.
A simple one. That's for your taxes, of course, and another kind of taxes that is involved is the VAT.
Oh yeah, okay.
Every quarter you have to submit a VAT tax return, and 4 times a year.
Irrespective of whether we make a profit or we make any revenue or not.
That doesn't matter. Even if there's no income, no revenue, no cost at all, you still have to submit your VAT tax return.
For every quarter?
For every quarter.
Okay.
And if there's nothing to declare, you just fill in 0.
Okay.
But please submit it. That is really compulsory. If you don't do it, the tax office will issue a tax assessment based on estimated numbers, and they will give you a fine for not submitting the form and not for paying in time.
Okay.
It can be solved, but it's a lot of work, and it's better to avoid it.
Okay. So that's for the one-man business. As a BV, what kind of compliance requirements are there?
Quite the same. For BV, of course, you need some deeds of incorporation. It is compulsory to have a solid bookkeeping.
Okay.
It's also compulsory to have a separated business bank account for the BV. VAT, again, is involved 4 times per year. Also, if you have employees in the BV, you will have to run a payroll.
Payroll administration, huh?
Payroll administration.
Should we need to employ a tax advisor or a legal advisor for a specific BV, or is it something that we can do whenever we require?
It is not compulsory to have a tax advisor for the BV, as it isn't for the eenmanszaak as well. However, a BV is more complex, so it is advisable to have at least a consultant. Also for the wage tax, the payroll administration and the wage tax return. Yeah, you have either you need a special software to submit your forms.
Okay.
Or you hire someone, and the tax advisor and tax consultant will have all the correct software, but also the knowledge, and especially with wage and when you have employees with all the social security, a lot of laws are involved, so it's better to have some advisory at hand.
Okay. When one should choose for one-man business type of registration and when one should choose for BV? Like, what is the pros and cons of choosing these 2 different types?
It is not really about paying taxes. It's more about safety.
Okay.
When you have an eenmanszaak, a one-man business, the business will have debts. Then you will be, as an owner of the eenmanszaak, liable with your private assets to these debts. A BV is a separated legal entity, so the shareholders of the BV will never be liable with their private assets.
Ah, okay.
Never is
So it's basically the financial liability is the matter that differentiates between a one-man business and a BV.
That's one of the considerations.
Okay.
However, there are more. It's also about if you need investors for your product. Most investors only want to do business with a BV and not with an eenmanszaak. If you want to have a loan from the bank for, also for your business, also banks are more in favor of BVs than of an eenmanszaak.
Okay, okay. So how much does it cost to register these different types of businesses?
Well, the costs for the Chamber of Commerce are fixed. It's only 75 euros per registration.
Okay.
For an eenmanszaak, there are no other costs involved. However, for a BV, you have to go to the notary and they will have to make the deed. And well, the costs differ from 800 euros to 1800 euros. Oh. There's one additional cost for expats. Since you're not speaking Dutch and the notary will only speak Dutch, you will have to have an interpreter.
Ah, okay, translator.
And translator.
Okay.
And the deeds will also have to be translated into English.
Okay.
At least. Okay. So that will be some additional costs. But it's worthwhile to check online the costs between all the different notaries. Okay. There are huge difference in the rates.
Okay, okay. So from the compliance perspective, are there any additional costs that would be involved? Probably hiring a tax advisor or a legal advisor might be additional,
yeah,
right?
Of course. Yeah, for an BV, there are more costs involved for an advisor as well, because you have to have this separate corporate income tax return for which annual accounts need to be composed. Well, the VAT tax return is the same for the eenmanszaak, but if you have a payroll administration, the wage tax returns will have to be submitted and you have to pay for it. Other than that, the bank cost, of course, your separated bank account will also quite high, actually, bank cost. But that's it. It can be that your type of business, the kind of activities, also requires some additional license.
Okay, maybe for restaurants we need an additional food safety license and things like that.
But that's then really depending on the activities.
Type of business, okay. So what happens if you run a business without registering in KVK or without registering in notary? What will happen?
Well, if the tax office finds out that you have a business, they will just simply say, okay, we noticed that you have a business, we think that you have made this kind of profit. Then they will issue a tax assessment with a certain amount of tax to pay, increased with a fine for not informing them. It's called a verzuimboete. And also a fine for not paying the taxes in time. Okay. It can also be that the tax office also issues a tax return of a tax assessment for the VAT.
Okay, okay.
And the same
fine will go on for that as well.
Yeah, the fines will fines for not filing tax returns and for not paying in time
and not informing them.
Yeah, so there will the fines can be very high actually, and very expensive. They can also say, okay, you don't have a solid bookkeeping, so we don't accept any costs whatsoever, and then you're only paying a lot of money. And,
but how do they know that we are running a business? Where do they check it?
Yeah, I was going to tell you that. For example, if you make cakes and you sell them and you have your Facebook page on which you advertise, the tax office is really checking those. Facebook, Insta, whatever. And they will check if you do that on a regular basis. And if you do, they will pay you a visit. And then they just going to ask you some questions, and maybe if you're lucky you will get a warning first, but like I said, they are quite strict on that, and so probably you will have to pay some taxes.
Do they also check our bank account regarding the transactions that's happening frequently? Do they do any validation from that regard?
It's funny that you asked that. In principle, they're not allowed to. But the other day I was just reading about this court case in which the bank has allowed the tax office to check the bank account statements for a few years. And based on that research, the tax office indeed fined this person. But the person go to court and said, yeah, but where's the right of my privacy, whatever.
Okay.
And the judge indeed said that the tax office has crossed the line, and also did the bank. So in principle, that is not possible.
Okay, okay. Say if a particular person is in a certain visa and they're not allowed to do a certain type of business or so on, what happens in such cases?
Quite sad, but if you do that, then your visa is not valid at the time, which means that you are an alien, as they call it. In the best situation, you will have a cap in your existence here in the Netherlands, which means that the term of 5 years will start all over again from the moment that your visa is valid again. And if it takes too long, if you cannot get a new valid visa or you cannot transfer it, then you might even get deported.
Okay, so that's the worst case scenario, will be thrown out of Netherlands.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. But I think that is really going very far, but that would be can be
consequence could be, yeah.
Exactly.
Are there any special support or financial benefits are being offered by the government as such for the new business entrepreneurs or somebody who is planning to expand? Are there any special incentives will be given by the government?
For some businesses, there might be some subsidies, also from the EU government, of course. In general, I can say there are allowances for investments, investments for sustainable energy, for sustainable environment products, investments in your own business, if you want to extend indeed, or if you just need to buy equipment or other products for your business, then you can claim some allowances on investments.
As an individual, of course, we all know there are quite a lot of lengthy list of insurances that one can take. But in terms of businesses, to secure them from any sort of uncertainties, what type of insurances one should think of, or what are the possibilities available here?
I think the most important insurance is the corporate liability insurance. In that way, the business is secured when you are, for some reason, make damage to assets of clients or of employees, whatever. You also have the professional liability insurance. That is more when you have an eenmanszaak or a freelancer and you give consultancy work. If you give a wrong consult, whatever, and you will be sued, then you are secured for that. You have a debtor risk insurance. If you are a trade business and you have risk that your debtors are not paying, you can be insured for that. There are some insurances for when you have employees and they get sick, that they will get paid, and that you won't have a loss of income. And also for you as a shareholder or as an one-man business, you can also have this insurance for when you get disabled or
incapacitated for the work or so.
Exactly. And then you miss out of income for a few months. You have yourself insured for that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Diana, for sharing your insights about setting up a new businesses in Netherlands. Like, there are a lot of our viewers who are trying to venture into new businesses in Netherlands. Either they're already based here or they're also based in India. They wanted to expand their businesses over here. Exactly. So this is going to be a lot of useful and insightful information for them. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
And if you missed to check the last episode about taxes in Netherlands, the link is in the description. Do check it out.